And now the most absorbing 2 minutes in television, the latest from the political grapevine. The morning after Ronald Reagan died, the Washington Post ran a front-page banner headline saying, quote, Ronald Reagan dies, 40th president reshaped American politics. 4 stories on Reagan were below it. The Washington Times devoted its entire front page with 3 stories to Reagan. The New York Times, Reagan's death was only worth one 3-column headline saying, quote, Reagan fostered Cold War might and curbs on government. And again today, the Washington Post, a banner headline, this time above 3 stories, saying, quote, a nation and the world paid tribute to Reagan. The Washington Times, 4 stories, all under the headline, quote, Reagan's state funeral set for Friday. But the New York Times, under only a single column, reports, quote, Reagan legacy looming large over presidential campaign. As for Reagan's role in ending the Cold War, the New York Times says, quote, it was Mr. Reagan's good fortune that during his time in office, the Soviet Union was undergoing profound change, eventually to collapse. And in an editorial today, the Times took a hit at both Reagan and President Bush, saying, quote, looking back now, we can trace some of the flaws of the current Washington mindset, the tax cut-driven deficits, the slogan-driven foreign policy, to Mr. Reagan's example. 3 years after losing his run for the presidency, Al Gore now says, quote, not all who claim to have been supportive and loyal truly were. And he's singling out Miami-Dade County Mayor Alex Pinellas as the, quote, single most treacherous and dishonest person I dealt with during the campaign. Gore did not specify why, though. According to the Miami Herald, the two had a falling out before the 2000 election. Pinellas, meanwhile, insists he worked hard for Gore and that Gore is now just, quote, bitter over the election. And Florida Democratic Senator Bob Graham has come to Pinellas' defense, saying, quote, people in Florida who know Alex Pinellas know he is a quality person, and it is not easy in Miami-Dade County to be a vocal Democrat, end quote. Senate Minority Leader Tom Daschle has dropped out of what was supposed to be a bipartisan fact-finding mission to Iraq for reasons that are not entirely clear. But that didn't stop 3 Republican senators, including Majority Leader Bill Frist, from traveling to Iraq. According to Roll Call newspaper, Daschle and Frist met several times last week to plan the trip, but when it came time to commit, Daschle withdrew. A Daschle spokesman says, quote, Senator Daschle had some specific things he wanted to see and do in Iraq, and when he had to make a final decision, the schedule was still fluid. The spokesman says Daschle is rescheduling his trip to Iraq for later this year.